The Xbox Kinect was supposed to be the next big thing in the gaming world. However, it completely flopped and has now been abandoned by Microsoft and left to die. How did this happen, and were there steps that could have been taken to prevent this?
The answer's yes, you just have to be a genius.
It is easy to see why Xbox wanted in on motion controls. Nintendo had taken the world by storm with the Wii, and it sold like hotcakes. Stores could not keep them in stock months after the release. So jump ahead to 2010 when the Xbox Project Natal, formerly known as, was announced, and everyone thought it was going to light the world on fire. No longer did you need a controller. Your body was the controller. Couple that with voice command and you should have a home run, right? Wrong. Initial sales of the Kinect were actually quite good, selling over 8 million units in the first 60 days after launch. Microsoft did a great job at promoting Kinect as the next big thing, and many people, myself included, took their word for it and became early adopters despite the steep $150 price tag. There was an initial lineup of 15 Kinect-compatible games at launch, with Kinect Adventures, Kinectables, Kinect Sports, Sonic Freeriders, and Dance Central being the best-selling of the bunch. And a handful of games were actually pretty fun and well-designed. I can actually remember playing Dance Central and really enjoying it. But outside of a few other mini-games, Wii Sports rip-off type stuff, there really wasn't that much to play. Kinect Adventures and Kinectables were okay as a novelty, but they weren't going to be the must-play game of the year, and neither was anything else that launched with it. Microsoft knew this and really made a push for developers to make games for the Kinect and get them out as quickly as possible so the people who purchased a Kinect would have something to play on their new expensive hardware. In total, there were 157 Kinect games released on the Xbox 360, most of which were complete and utter garbage shovelware that either tacked on motion controls as options or were a gimmicky kind of throwaway Wii Sports ripoff in some way. There really wasn't any substance to these games. Even games that had incredibly cool concepts like being a Jedi in Star Wars or fighting as Goku in Dragon Ball Z or piloting a giant mech seemed like a natural fit for the Kinect, but due to janky controls and overall mediocre gameplay led many fans and early adopters to stop buying Kinect games. I mean, when we think about it, why would you spend $60 on a game that not only requires this expensive hardware to play and the space to play it, but may not be all that fun and is typically a very short, gimmicky experience with only a handful of hours worth of gameplay? Especially when for that same $60 at the time, you could be playing Call of Duty Black Ops, Assassin's Creed 2, Red Dead Redemption, BioShock, or any other of the countless amazing titles on the Xbox 360 that offer much more in-depth and enjoyable experiences than petting a virtual tiger.
Well, that's retarded.
It wasn't long after launch that the Kinect started running into problems. First off, the original design made you have a separate power supply, which was cumbersome to set up as is, but on top of that, if you had a wireless adapter to play online, then you had to use an extension plug that went around the front of the original Xbox. It was just a cluttered mess. It looked awful. It came unhooked all the time. It was a real hassle to get this thing up and running. So it quickly became a tangled mess of cords, and you just threw it in the freaking closet. This, of course, was later fixed with the Xbox 360 S and E models, but millions of people still had the original model, and this became a major issue. Then, of course, the biggest issue was the amount of space it needed. A 10 by 10 foot open area with good lighting and minimal furniture is required for the Kinect sensor to work well. But not everyone has that much space, especially if you're a kid like me who typically plays in their bedroom and not in the living room. Playing with a less space or with crappy lighting often led to the games controlling like absolute shit and making them next to unplayable, which again was a major factor into people who bought them on stopping their support for it and quickly moving on from the Kinect and seeing it only as a novelty or like a party game, or if they wanted to play Dance Central when their friends came over, they might pull it out, but there's not something they played all the time. It's not something that hardcore gamers ever got into.
I'm the one who sucks!
With support for the Kinect starting to wane, sales of the games designed for it also started to fall drastically. And once that happened, shit really hit the fan for the Kinect. Because these games weren't generating income for the developers, they slowly shifted away from developing games for the Kinect. I mean, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Why would they waste time, money, and effort to make a game that requires a device that only a fraction of the audience even owns? And if they do, then they most likely stop using it anyway because it sucks. It doesn't make sense when instead you could develop a game that could not only go on the Xbox 360, but on the PS3 and maybe even the Wii and reach an audience that is 1,000 times bigger, generating more revenue for the developer. And it just doesn't make any sense why they would develop games specifically for the Kinect and just divide their audience so much. I mean, the division there really held back the Kinect, and Microsoft was aware of it. They tried desperately to remedy the situation. First off, they did a massive price cut of the hardware and running deals on Black Friday, which was basically just giving these things away. Secondly, they started bundling the Kinect with new consoles. Over 2/3 of the 24 million units that were sold in bundle packages with the new S and E models. Microsoft was doing everything they could to get the Kinect in hands of as many gamers as possible, but it was just too late. The motion control fad was dying out, not to mention the PS Move and the Wii U were also in the same space and competition in them. The Kinect seemed doomed at this point to be another gimmick gone wrong in gaming history, but Microsoft was not ready to throw in the towel just yet.
I'm sorry, Jerry, but it doesn't work like that. I'm Mr. Meeseeks. I have to fulfill my purpose so I can go away.
Jump forward to 2013 and the next generation of consoles were just starting to launch. Microsoft elected to not give up on the Kinect and instead double down on it. They announced that a new Kinect 2.0 would be bundled with every Xbox One and it would require much less space to operate and among other improvements. This was their solution for having a divided player base like we saw on the 360 version. If every Xbox One owner automatically had a Kinect from day one, then developers would not have to worry about a smaller audience to sell their games to, which would lead to more popular and better games being developed for it, which ultimately would lead to more sales of Microsoft's games and consoles, as they expected fans to choose the Xbox One over the PS4 for these Kinect exclusives. But man, oh man, were they ever super wrong. I mean, first off, due to the Kinect initially not being optional, the launch price of the Xbox One was $500, a whole $100 more than the more powerful PS4, who smartly decided to ditch the PS Move completely. On top of that, developers still did not take a chance of being burned and opted not to make games for the Kinect 2.0. In fact, to date, there are only a grand total of 21 retail Xbox One games that work with the Kinect 2.0, 7 of them being just dance games. And the Xbox One Kinect launch title, Fighter Within, is widely considered to be one of the worst games of all time. So again, with no games to play on it, there was no reason to really use it. Yeah, you could adjust the volume or change channels or rewind a show on Netflix, but all of that could be done with the controller in almost the same amount of time. Not to mention the amount of stupid times they would online mid-game, it would pick up a word and it would pop up a screen and say, "Did you mean?" or "Xbox, did you hear me say this?" And it would pull up these screens in the middle of your online session, ultimately leading in frustrated gamers. I literally unhooked mine and put it back in the box only a few weeks into owning the Xbox One and never used it again. And I feel like most gamers did the same. It was just so annoying and not that great and nothing really good about it. And quite possibly the worst thing that ever happened for the Kinect was the introduction of VR gaming. The Oculus Rift and later the PS4 VR put the final nail in the Kinect's coffin. Motion controls are officially dead in the eyes of gamers, and VR is now the future, leaving the Kinect to wither away to nothing. It became clear to Microsoft that there was no saving the Kinect at this point, and it was time to cut their losses. They stopped bundling systems with it just a year later after launch. Then the Xbox One S and the One X, they've completely removed the port that is for the Kinect. If you want to use it on those systems, you have to buy a special adapter. The writing was on the wall, but Microsoft officially announced the halt of production of the Kinect 2.0 in October 2017, just 7 years after its initial release. And it's kind of sad because the actual hardware is well designed and it was actually pretty innovative for its time. It's a shame that no developers ever made games that people wanted to play on it other than dancing or bowling. It had tons of potential that was never realized and is now nothing but a fading memory of a failed experiment in gaming. Alright, that's all I have for today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, do me a huge favor, hit that like button down below. It really helps out the channel. Subscribe for more Xbox and PS4 videos in your sub boxes daily. Be sure to check out my previous videos like that. Also, let me know down in the comment section what you think about the Kinect. Did you have one? Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on this and get a conversation going down in the comments below. But guys, until next time, remember that it's always K-Mac time somewhere. Until then, take it easy and peace out.